Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Jason Jeffries with us again. We are going to be showing you the latest photographs and video footage we have on Planet X, Nibiru, the Winged Destroyer, Nemesis, whatever name you want to put to it. This is some really good footage. It just gets better and better. I don't know if people are really doing more searching now for Planet X versus 6 months ago or a year ago, but it just seems like every time I put up a new podcast, the images that I get are amazing. Like right now, the first image that we're looking at, this was sent to us from Chris, and as you can see, there's definitely an orb to the top left of the sun right there. And some people might say, well, that's just a lens flare, that's an anomaly. Okay, could be, but take a look at this, you guys. Look at this. You've got two objects of lens flare. You've got two sets of lens flare there. You've got the sun right here, and to the top left, you've got this orb, and the reflection of it's down there. So, Jason, thanks for joining us here at the Leak Project. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, doing fantastic. You know, lots going on right now. We're going to be able to put full-time effort into Leak Project now. I do not have a day job to worry about, so this is wonderful. We're going to do a tour this month or next across the entire country, and we're going to get some stellar footage. We're going to talk to people all over the place. So, now, last time we spoke, Jason, you gave us some really good footage, orbital paths and stuff that seemed to kind of freeze up at the worst time. So on the second half of this podcast, what I'd like to do is those updates on those orbital paths and make sure that they're smooth as silk. But what do you think of this picture right here, man?
I think that's really good footage. From what I've been seeing, as of this month, it's been coming out from behind the sun, and it's really revealing itself, especially in the higher elevations. So a lot of people have been getting objects, and like we know there's probably 4 or 5 objects that comes with this system. So yeah, that's definitely one of them. I'd say that's the sun, the actual binary of the system. There's a lot of names for that, but yeah, that's giving off its own light. They can see it clear as day there, obviously.
Yeah, this one's great. She's got her hand in the middle of the sun and that object, so you can see that it's not some type of lens refraction.
Yeah, and it's actually got two, the reflections there are blue, and you can see 2 of them. One's got the classic pink around it from the sun, and the other one's smaller and blue and in correlation to where the second sun is. So, yep, hard to debunk that one.
I got to tell you, thanks a lot, Chris. I really appreciate this footage. This is stellar, some of the best images I've seen yet. And then I go down to this next image here. This is from Christina Holland, and she used a welder's lens or some type of filtering system here, so you could see that you've got these 2 objects again, and then 2 sets of lens flare to go with it.
Yeah, and that's what people say, oh, it's a lens flare, it's because you got multiple layers of glass there. Well, what these people are doing all the time is rotating the camera and the glass and everything. They're showing you that that object does not move. So it's not, it couldn't be that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're putting on a welding helmet, and they're looking up at the sun. They see it there, and then they just put the camera there, and it's seeing the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's some video footage I'm going to show here in a moment, actually, from the same lady. She does that. She's got the welder's lens. She puts the camera, angles it so it actually goes through there, and you can see the lens flares bouncing around, but you can see the stationary objects stay in the same location. So it's pretty cool. We'll get to that in just a minute. Now, this one's from Kathleen, and you can see this shot was taken last month. She said she used a gamer-type cameras. I don't know if it's a Bushnell, I guess that's what it says down here. So this is very interesting. I don't know really what to make of all this reddish anomaly blobbish stuff around it, but you can definitely see there's this second sun source right here, this orb, I should say second light source and orb.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably the object that was, if that was last month, like I said, it was supposed to be passing kind of across the sun, if you will, from our perception as we rotate around it. And yeah, it would make sense that it's on the left of the sun now and on the right of the sun at that time, So even the red, like last night, I seen the craziest sunset. I mean, I've seen in a long time, and I've noticed that even to the west and to the east, both sides are red for some reason. I mean, I know red light bends easier, and that's why you see it. But last night, I literally seen after the sun went down, it looked like just a streak of red that went like almost like a rainbow, around the sky, and they were chemtrailing the whole time, even at night. And then when you looked up at the moon, it looked like the moon had a bulge on it, like there was this blue orb like appearing out from behind it, man. And I watched it for like a half hour. I was blinking, clear my eyes, like, I was like, what the heck, man? And it was just some of the craziest stuff I've seen, like real life, you know what I mean? Like, we're seeing a lot of these red sunsets. So I believe that holds true with the red oxide, or maybe the bending of light or brown dwarf, or, because whatever it is, it's basically, like I said, red light's the beginning of the spectrum. It's easier to bend and it'll curve, and that's why the moon's red during solar eclipses and the sky's red at night, because it's not direct sunlight. It's the only one that can bend that far for us to still see it, you know? So,
Right.
I mean, it's making sense to me.
Well, and we've had Eric Gibson post a lot of comments in the comment section. I've even seen you guys talk back and forth. And he's a really good photographer, and he's also honorable skeptic, I would like to say, as far as the Planet X goes. He hasn't seen it with his own eyes, so he's skeptical about it, and I can totally appreciate that. And he sent some images recently to me. He said, Rex, you got to get these images out there. These are the most wild sunsets I have ever seen in my life, and they're just this incredible red, and it just pops. I've never seen anything like it either. So maybe at the end of the presentation today, I'll pull up a couple of those images that he shared with us, because you're right, the sunsets are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's like you understand like the concept. You can't see stars in the daytime. You know what I mean? So it's if they wouldn't be chemtrailing this stuff, I guarantee you we've been seeing it for at least the past couple months with our naked eye or with binoculars easily at any elevation. If they weren't doing what they're doing to the atmosphere, but it's making it so. A lot of the chemicals are spraying up there. You can go get it tested, look it up on anything, and they only reflect certain wavelengths of radiation. So that would make sense on why you can't see it with your naked eye. Basically, it would be reflecting that one narrow bandwidth that you can pick it up on back at it and out of the atmosphere. You know what I mean? And we wouldn't be able to see it with our eyes. I mean, even though infrared's out of the light spectrum anyways, as you'd see it get closer, you would see a red aura around it, and yeah, it would look like that.
Right. Now, this one was sent in from Lee. He's got the regular image. I'll share that in a minute. And then also this is the inverted photo. And he thinks that this anomaly right here is either a planet or a moon or a second sun of some type. Now, I find it interesting. I mean, you can definitely tell this is the lens flare right here, and you've got the bluish around that, and that's what it'll do when it's inverted from red to blue, I'm assuming. But this one right here, I thought it was at least worth bringing it out to the table, because there might be something more to that, and I'll share the original image in just a second. Let me pull it up. What's your thought on this one, Jason?
Well, when they do that, that's kind of like a gamma test, and it shows what's giving heat and stuff like that. Basically the same idea. And the dimmer stuff would be reflective heat. And if you consider the black dot the light source, it would be reflected on the right side, you know? I mean, as you can see it, it's, you know, basically the sun would light up only that one side near the sun. So, yeah, that would make sense to me, too. It could be like a planetary object.
Here's the original from Lee, and as you can see, you've got the lens flare here, the reddish lens flare, and then the telltale signs. But this piece right here, I think, is pretty cool. Now, do you feel that this could actually be a planetary body, Jason, or do you think that this is just some type of lens flare or refraction?
It's hard to say if you weren't there, man, with something like that, because I mean, you'd have to ask the guy, did he see that when he looked up in the sky? Because if that was the case, then, you know, possibly it'd be a planetary object. But if he didn't see that with his naked eye, it would be reflecting light, and we're saying it's a solid object, so you'd be able to see it with your eyeball, just like the moon, you know. So that could definitely be a refraction of some sort, but it could be off of an object too, you know, because you gotta think of it like a projector. It will magnify something that's smaller in front of it, you know, onto the lens, you know. So that's something else too, you know. I'm not a professional, but you'd have to really ask the people what they saw when they took that picture, you know, that one in particular. You can see as the woman holding the sun under her hand, you know what I mean? She's seen that when they took the picture. She was holding, you know, the secondary sun under her hand. But, you know, that guy didn't have, like, his finger up. That's what I would be. Like, best test is just hold your finger up, a card, a spoon, a knife, anything to block that sun, and take a couple images both ways. Those little dots would have, you know, disappear and, or not, you know. That looks legitimate to me.
Well, and let's take a look at this video footage right here, because this is the same area, and you can see that it's still got the two pieces of, or the orb, the sun, and then the two lens flares from the orb and the sun. So I'm going to hit play here. This is about a minute, and we can talk as we're watching this. Look at that.
Yeah, that's nice. See, he definitely seen that with his eyes, you know. That's why he's photographing it. And you can see both refractions moving around in correlation to the distance between the two objects that you're seeing. You know, like those two at the top left, they move. He's showing you. He's trying to chase them, you know. There's the moon.
Isn't that cool that he goes and shows, well, there's the moon.
Yep.
And then he goes back to the sun and that orb at about the 11 o'clock position. Yep. And he totally gets rid of any... He shows you exactly what the lens flare is by moving it around so you can specifically see where that's going. And then these two objects are just staying completely stationary. This is some of the best video footage that I have seen.
Yeah, that's really good. I wonder where he's at. Did he say? Like Mexico or... You know,
I think, yeah, he did, and I'll have to pull it up, and I'll make sure to add that when I get the description into the description. So,
yeah, because we can find cameras of that or get people to aim in that, in that area, see if they can get more photos, because there must not be coming it as much, obviously. You know.
yep, yeah, that's a good piece of video footage right there. And I got to tell you, when I pull up some of this footage here in a second of the welding glass filter or the welding filter where you've got video footage through that, and when you take that out, you just see this one giant bright light, which just looks like the sun. It's this intense white, extremely powerful. And then you put that filter up, bingo, you can see to the top left that there's that second orb there, and it isn't just one object. So this could explain why I have been talking about for several years now the mass amounts of chemtrails, the radiation levels have increased, the sun is more intense. All of that stuff could possibly be because now we're getting closer to a second sun.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes total sense, and people forget, like, you go, like, our solar system moves through the universe and, moves through the galaxy and all that. There's like a galactic center and all that. We're going, there's a lot more it's moving than just us. So it's very, very possible, that everybody's like, it's not possible, it's not. I don't see how. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there that just can't conceive it. And it's called photoionization. That's the idea. They're basically overexposing your eyeballs so you cannot see the two objects. You only see one big blurry one. And who wants to look at the bright light all day and hurt their eyes,
Yeah, I read these comments where people say, I look up at the sun all the time and I don't see anything. Well, keep doing that and you're not going to see anything at all because you're going to go blind.
Yeah.
I mean, use common sense, guys. Come on. Oh, I always look up at the sun. I don't have... Okay. You're going to burn your retinas out. I mean,
exactly.
It's really not the best idea. Even with polarized sunglasses on, and you got to be real
I hold my
careful.
hand up every time, and I usually do, like, when it's overcast, that's the only time I really look directly at it, because you'll see it behind there, and it does some pretty neat stuff. I live up about almost 6,000 feet in elevation, so it's pretty, the chemtrails are right above me, and it's every night, every day, every night. And I can predict it. I can tell people on a clear day that, about 4 o'clock, this part of the sky will have the planes flying everywhere. And you can correlate that with the FAA flight control stuff, and there's just unmarked planes that have no marking or nothing on them, like all over, the programs telling you, we don't know what this is, They don't have like a tag, all of them are supposed to be registered if they're flying,
You're a conspiracy theorist, dude.
Yeah, I know. Didn't you ever look that up, actually, when they actually said to name any kind of like critical thinking like that, conspiracy theory?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you think for yourself, you're a conspiracy theorist, and that is a mental disorder, folks.
Yeah. That was like around the Reagan era when they actually came up with that as like in paperwork. It was weird.
It's a mental disorder if you don't believe everything the mainstream media tells you. Literally. There's now a certain title, or I don't know what label it is called, but if you think that there's a one world government, or that there might be a one world government, if you feel that banking institutions are actually a big part, or people that control the majority of the banking systems have a big part in wars previously, well, then you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. And now you could actually be labeled as a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, domestic terrorist. I was reading that law that you're talking about, and I think I fit 3 out of 5 of the bill, like, that passed, like, just by my beliefs, that counted me as like a terrorist or something almost in the guidelines, because they're so broad that literally everybody that is a domestic terrorist in that sense. So it's just another way to, kind of enforce and encroach into your lives, Like, even teachers, women, like anybody. The founding fathers are domestic terrorists in their eyes, All kinds of shit. It's crazy. The same sense, and the same, like, people need to understand, like, these laws literally make everybody domestic terrorists, It says, basically, if you don't, if you feel that the government doesn't have your best intention in mind, you're a domestic terrorist. So that kind of speaks for a lot of people if you think about it,
Especially depending on where you live and the surroundings that you're around the majority of the time. Now, let me show you this video footage right here. This is from Christina Holland again. Thank you for sending this, Christina. And you can see that there's a filter up. You can see to the top left, you've got that second orb there. I'm going to hit play. So you can see the lens flare there bouncing around.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So there's that weird object. Look at how it's kind of moving. You see that?
Yeah, those are the clouds, I think, moving in front of it, kind of overcast a little bit.
Okay.
Because the welding lens filters out things. It'll make the clouds moving by kind of make it feel like it's moving.
Okay.
I'm sure it's moving, but,
Not that fast.
Yeah, not in our perception that fast. you know. And plus, if it's light, you got to think if it takes our sunlight 8 minutes to get to us, then who knows, you know, what you're seeing. You might be looking like 8 and 10 minutes in the past at the same time, if you're looking at the sunlight and that light at the same time. You know what I mean? So there is some trickery going on there. It's just wavelengths of light. People don't understand. You know, you're not looking at both objects at the same time because one's further away and light can only travel so fast. Think about that.
Let me share this one with you now, too. This one's by Christina as well, and it starts off without the welder's filter. You see just that one enormous, bright, white sun.
Yeah.
It's a 13 welding, she says. A welding lens is what she used. So now you can see, there it is.
Blam.
That's some incredible concentrated swamp gas.
Yeah. That's great, actually. Yeah, and then more and more people are doing that because they just see the videos, they see this, and they're like, "Oh, my husband welds, my blah 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 welds," and then they go out and see it.
Right. Right. Look at that. As soon as she takes that off, boom! It's just so bright. Looks like one giant sun, getting ready to go hypernova.
And people say that's normal, you know. Like I beg to differ. The sun used to be yellow, you know, and you can see how small the sun is compared to that, you know, when you put the filter on it, how dim the sun goes. Like even National Geographic's like slipped up and posted a couple good pictures and stuff like that.
Now, you've also got some new findings with the orbital path, star charts and stuff that you're going to share with us. And do you have that information with you now? Or let me show this one last video. Now, it doesn't seem as bright, but you can definitely see it.
You can see it there, yeah.
Same
you could
place.
definitely see it in the helmet, you know. I think that is because basically that was probably, you know what I mean? It's probably easier to look at maybe towards the morning or the afternoon.
Could
When
be.
it's directly above head, that's 90-degree angle almost, you know, and their chemtrails are super effective. All that blocking is super effective at a 90-degree angle, you know what I mean? Like straight up. So that's how they think of it. They're just like, well, the sun's right here, this is there, I'll just spray everything underneath it, you know? Not thinking about the people off at an angle taking a picture of the, you know, in the higher elevations and things like that.
Right. And I know I shared this one time before, but I don't know if everybody had a chance to see this. This was sent to us from Peter from the UK.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is just one of my favorite images that I have seen yet. That's a good one right there. And then that was it.
One of my favorite ones you showed me, actually. Because it showed a different perspective. It showed you in the UK and, you know, showed you that they're still seeing it over there.
Yep, and there's the reflections. You can see the dual sun reflections to it as well.
Yeah, that's what I like, too, because that eliminated. It was behind the clouds.
And it's behind the clouds.
You can't fake that. And then you had another one that was right before that where it showed the, you know, right there, blam. See? I like that one, too.
And you can get a perspective on where it's actually at based upon the electrical lines and the rooftop. So
that was neat.
And then this was a pretty interesting sunset there. Now, if you would, Jason, what do you got for us? You said you were going to share some really cool orbits and stuff with us, so I'll let you pull that up.
All right, yeah. It was just some of the stuff I was sharing with you last time. It really messed up at the worst time. So what I wanted to show was the all-sky surveys and the Worldwide Telescope. You go to the WISE, all-infrared scan. This is the most up-to-date infrared scan, and right there, you can see how fast this object was moving. It froze up. It didn't show you the zoom in. So there's the object. That's the ecliptic. All right. So, you know, there you go. Blam. This thing is like huge, moving fast. You can see the frames. You could actually do math from that if you got more of the scan data. I could show you, you know, how fast it was going just from that one scan. But yeah, you can't say that's a planet because they travel the ecliptic, which is this way. So even if they were going backwards or whatever you want to say, you know, nothing should be going, you know, from south to north like everything. But he said, like, it's coming underneath us from the south. It'll rise above the ecliptic, go over ahead of us. You know, everybody will be able to see it as it goes out towards its other sun. And then as it gets closest to its sun, it'll drop below the ecliptic again and then go under it and come back towards us for another, you know, 1,800 years. You know, whatever it is, 3,600, you know, 180, whatever you want to say, you know what I mean? But either way, all the timelines break down to the same way, you know, whatever you want to believe, you know. But there it is. That's the scan. That doesn't appear there with the naked eye, you know. That's not fake. And it's in the constellation of Pisces at that moment in 2009. Okay? You can't debunk it. They even named that object. That's what I was showing you. That was supposed to be the lost object. All right, remember that? How I showed you that in the identification chart on the last video? So.
Oh yeah.
That's the pickup from that. I believe I had my internet browser here. They wanted to see my notes, how we did I believe it was let me see here, this one. Yeah. So they wanted to see us do the number man system, show how we can translate it from the Hebrew, because that messed up when we showed them. And a lot of people were kind of complaining about that. Sorry. So you can go, what I did is go to Google Translator, and you just put it to the Hebrew like I showed you. And it translates it for you into Hebrew. You gotta give it a second. I got a bunch of new links for you up here about planetary objects they've found, and these are mainstream news talking about it that people seem to forget about.
Yeah, like the ones that leave comments in the trolls that leave comments in the comment section.
Yeah, it's funny. I like to give people something to read from the mainstream news, you know, once in a while, to show that they are conditioning people for this, you know what I mean? They are talking about it. They do. That way they can't be called liars when it does come to their faithful servants, you know. But you paste it here.
We warned you, but then we called you a conspiracy theorist and told you were batshit crazy.
Yep. And then when you just hit enter, it'll translate for you. And there it is, 666. All three of them do it the same way. It breaks it down to Hebrew and then gives you the factors. It doesn't lie, so it basically helps you solve these complex equations. But yeah, this whole thing, his name does it 3 times, 666 each way. He's the 8th, and it says it'd be an 8th king. There's a lot in there. It literally points to I actually got a whole nice list written up on, I think it might be in this. Yeah. People were saying how Babylon wasn't America, so I kind of gave them a list of how Babylon is literally mentioned as America basically in every way I could find. And it just said it's noted for its architecture, buildings, and skylines. There's the chapters. You can kind of read over them yourself. But would be a queen among nations. It would be in the end times. Basically, it would have nice lands and rivers, and it would destroy our own land with pollution. It would be the industrial nation of the world, have huge aviation program, ruled by a republic or democracy, ruled by many councils, have a system breakdown, bogged down by deliberations and can't govern properly. The leaders use seers, mystics, and astrology and the occult since its birth. It's a nation of religious confusion. The king of Babylon is called Lucifer, or the Antichrist. The king of Babylon will rule the great city. A world government entity will rise up to rule from Babylon. This entity will rise up and use military power to rule the world, basically. That's what it says. It's a virgin nation, basically, which her lands were untouched by major war. And it said that she'd also come from a mother nation, I believe. And yeah, I have the lists of that here too. And that'd be England, you know. Said it would be the youngest of the superpowers at that time, you know. But, you know.
You know how you were talking about 666 a minute ago?
Yeah.
The magic sun box, I don't know if anyone's familiar with occult magic boxes where you have certain numbers that equate to a certain value at the very end, horizontally and vertically. But if you take the magic box of our sun, it actually is 666. Each row sums to 111, and there's 6 rows times 111, which equals 666. I'll actually share that with you guys just real quick, because I think that this right here is going to correlate kind of with what you're talking about, or at least bring a new perspective to the
because
table.
It'll definitely, you'll see exactly.
Let me share this with you guys real quick here.
It definitely ties in.
There it is. Now, this is astrology, mysticism, hermetics, the occult, and when I say the occult, I'm just referring to the unknown. This isn't any dogmatic sacrifice or anything. This is just a magic number box, and this is the equation of our own sun. And a lot of people think that the sun in our solar system is representation of Jesus Christ. If you study the old Gnosticism, being the way to the light, the sun, aka SON/SUN.
Yeah. Exactly. They were teaching you like a big cryptogram and stuff like that, but they also had it confused with way earlier interpretations of religions. That's why a lot of it appears confusing when you go back to those earlier things, you know. I kind of have a better way to break that down here in a minute, too. I can kind of show the origins and where people get confused.
Yeah, that'd be great. You can go ahead and share your screen again. I just wanted to present this.
Yeah, I like that. That was actually really neat because I don't know where they came up with the numbers or how they do that stuff, but I know that it's like a Sudoku, and every way they do it, even diagonally, it equals the same number. And there's astrological signs for each of them, like the sun, Pluto, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, whatever. Every one of them has one of those. So that's very interesting that you showed that. But back to that, it's Babylon is a land rich in mineral wealth. It's leading agriculture nation in the world, leading exporting nation in the world, leading importing nation in the world, filled with warehouses and granaries, leading industrial nation. It's noted for horses and cattle, fine flour and mills, and basically has space industry. That's the way I take a lot of the stuff when they're talking about going to and fro and reaching the heavens and stuff like that. So you gotta you guys want to look this stuff up, they always want the verses, but it's a lot to look up. So if they want to research it, go ahead. I don't want to be boring. So there's the verse, and but
Very cool.
yeah, this shows you all. I mean, they flock astray and prophecy, blah blah blah. You can look. Their mother nation remains, and from existence to her, from her birth to death, basically. Uh, yeah, a lot of the stuff is just. It's all I got. I mean, I went on and on and on and on. It's just lists about Babylon. All you gotta do is type in Babylon and references to it, and just look up the chapters, read what it's saying, and do an interpretation of it. But those are a couple of the good ones. And what I wanted to show people, this is basically the origin. Like all major religions back then started with, they had 12 major gods. There's gods of heaven, gods on land. And they all started and stemmed from this. And these were the original names, even that's like from the Sumerian texts and onward. But there was always 12 of them. And there was always this one right here that says Marduk, the 12th planet. And it showed you basically how all of them were named, their original names, and how they were translated into the higher gods. And then through different religions from basically, onward, you could decipher those. Like every one of those religions worship the same gods, the same texts, everything. Every major religion came out of those. I mean, you can do it historically and look back at it. And all these origins, all this, I mean, the 12th planet's like a great book to read if you want to look into that stuff. I mean, it literally, Sitchin breaks down with different archaeologists and scientists from all around the world, you know, and shows you where these major religions came from, who's who from each one, and the derivative. And the Greeks even told us this when they wrote about it, which, their writings and stuff stemmed back from super early, but they actually gave original copyrights and references to where they got the information. I mean, I got a whole report that's like really long, but we'll have to go over it another time about that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's all the science, like archaeology, like I said, biblical. I mean, all these people, the people that didn't get along, physicists and stuff, people that argue, basically, all went back, and then they started seeing that, wow, as we were discovering these things, if you look at it, it was there in the Bible, it was there in all these ancient texts, the Greek pantheon, and all of it, like I was telling you, a lot of it, Zeus is the 12th planet, this, that because by the time it got to the Greek, all these symbols have changed, and all these, that's where we adopted it from, was the Roman and Greek. That's where our astrology comes from. That's where the planetary symbols and names come from. But they all got them from these sources and quoted it, copywritten it, wrote it, and told you that, hey, this is where we got this from, an earlier source. We literally found lists in those caves that reached back like hundred thousands of years ago, telling you a huge decline in Earth society from 100,000 years ago till now, basically. And we're not even near what we think we are when it comes to like archaeology finds and what happened here. The real history of the Earth is like totally unfathomable. It seems like sci-fi. The truth of it is, and people don't understand that. A lot of them like think, oh, you're showing biblical stuff, so you believe that this book that was rewritten in the 1500s is true. No, I'm saying that it was rewritten from rewritten books that were rewritten, cited from earlier sources that had in-depth details of how they got there and crazy scientific concepts, even the exact number of elements in the periodic table of elements, which we haven't discovered, but we kind of got an idea of, they had it down to the number, like 266. They said there's no more, no less, It was pretty cool. Like, this is ancient knowledge. It's been passed down. And because we have a language barrier that's been broken, split off, and, forked off in so many ways, it's been dulled down, and that's the best way to explain it. So yeah, when people ask me about these religious texts and stuff, yes, there is truths to it. We got to go back. You got to see where the word came from. All right, what's this word mean? When did it come into play? Is it the Greek word? When was this word invented? Did they have it when they written the Bible? Did they have it when they written the King James version? You got to see things like that. Well, what did they mean? You know what I mean? Like I said, they didn't have a word for the word planet. This is the article that people can get to see.
You know what I find fascinating? I just got to throw this out there real quick because you brought up King James, the King James Bible anyway. And do you guys really know what King James was about? Those that say, oh, the only true Bible is the King James Version. You got to read that one. Well, yeah. I mean, do you know what he was doing to people that he didn't like? Or let's say, do you know what he did to his family members that he was afraid would get some kind of authority over him?
They did the Crusades. There was a reason for the Crusades. It was to actually...
How many people did he kill?
There was a lot, actually. Historically, it's kind of hard to look at that stuff because it's kind of smeared, you know what I mean? A smear campaign. Because of the Crusades, what they did was they took this belief system that was already there and adopted, these earlier principles and kind of added their own teachings to it to make it easier for people to convert to. And then they went around destroying all the books for the older generation, so when that generation dies out, nobody knows what the truth is, And then they keep it all locked away in the Vatican, things like that. People don't like to hear that stuff, but it's historically, you can look it up. So like I said, does the Bible hold truths? Yes. It definitely holds truths. It told us where the Garden of Eden was, and in the order that plants were cultivated into agriculture. At the exact time that man started its first civilization, about 1,500 years before, maybe 18 or 1,900 years before, scientists knew that. And they actually looked at that and said, "Ooh, wow, we need to start looking into this more." And then they found literally ruins. A lot of the biggest archaeological digs all over the world were found because of that right there. They said, "Oh, we need to look into this more." If they're saying this, and there's clues throughout the Bible, like east of the river, west of this, that, and these people came from there, and this and that. You can just do correlation and find out that it does hold true to the beginning of society, to the birth of our society, to the birth of these religions. But that was it, These religions had earlier, predecessors. It's all from the Sumerian texts and tablets, They're the cuneiform, whatever you want. They deciphered it. It says what it is. Why would you invent a written language and then tell a bunch of lies? That's the first thing. You're going to go through the trouble to make a written language. All right, and then just lie to people. No, you're not gonna make these fantasy stories. You're gonna tell about your sciences and try to continue society, basically. You know what keeps better than paper? Clay. I mean, if you write the same thing in a book and then you write the same thing on clay, that clay is gonna be there for thousands of years. That book's gonna disappear to dust. So they're really brilliant people. I mean, it all comes from the same place. And I wanted to show some other things here. This is USA Today telling about the discovering of a dwarf planet and things like that, and they're showing the size of these super Earths and massive planets and things like that they discovered. Basically they said, oh, we found these things and they're so small that they can't explain still, because Pluto, remember how we said, oh, Pluto's too small to mess with Neptune and Uranus's orbit. So as it goes by, they found Sedna, and it's too small. And then they found 2012 VP-113, don't even worthy of a name. And they still know it's even smaller, so they know there's this huge thing out there. And this is on USA Today. And you can go on and look about that through the LA Times. That object that shows you how it was moving through there, the red, the green, the blue, that's wavelengths. So the red is the easiest to bend. That's when it was the furthest away. Green is a neutral state, and blue is very rapid state, so it shows you as the thing got closer. That's why the colors change like that through the infrared spectrum. They explain it more and more. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're literally programming people with this stuff to be so skeptic of what we told them the whole time and what all these people were telling them the whole time. Say they were wrong, but when these people say it, it's right. You know what I mean? And it's like, why do you have to have mainstream news tell you something's real for you?
Cognitive dissonance is a very powerful form of mind control.
I agree, but that conflict, shouldn't that start off some inner struggles with you? Be like, wow, I'm so conflicted about this that I need to research more. I need to stop attacking people for their beliefs and their research,
It's human nature, man. And that's the thing, Jason, is the powers that be know this. They've been studying psychology, physiology, culture. They have all the keys, tools, and real history combined with the research and all the monies that have been put into that. And then they only give us what they feel we should have to feed their agenda. So, they can control people. They know people better than they know themselves.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things that's nice about those that listen to Leak Project that I've noticed is most of you guys are extremely knowledgeable. You're very astute. You know that something is going on, and you're trying to get to the bottom of it instead of just keeping your head in the sand. So it's nice to meet people like that, and I think that the Leak Project is a good medium for those out there around the world to kind of join forces, put their heads together, and come up with solutions. So, like this information you're bringing to the table, every time we do a show, different people send comments about how they learned something new and they appreciate it.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing is just trying to share a layman's point of view. I'm like, I had a very high IQ when I was young, but I can break it down to people just a little bit easier because maybe I just look at it a little bit different. My parents didn't really mentally condition me any certain way, but I just think that's a lot of, some people have communication skills. Some people try to sound smart with big words, and that loses all interest in anything. You're trying to bridge the communication gap, not, destroy the bridge, if you will. But these verses right here, people were asking me where it said anything about like homosexuality in the Quran, and there's 4 verses that people were killed by rain of stones because they were homosexual, and you can't tell me it was just like a meteor shower or something like that, just randomly, when it was 4 times, and these people said, we rained down them with a rain of stones and killed them, basically. And it calls them abominations, which is like the worst thing it's like the greatest sin. Yeah. So if you are, Islamic and gay, that's kind of, contradictory to your own beliefs was all I was saying, basically. They were trying to get that. That's the idea of pushing that in the media. That's the idea to get you to love Muhammad Ali and not want gays to pee in your bathroom, but, the next week to hate the Muslim terrorists and love the gays that got shot. That's what they're doing. That's all I was saying. People have their beliefs. There's extremists of every religion, but, you can look up these verses, and every one of these shows you what they feel about homosexual, and it's not anything nice. So, and yeah, it shows you that the Prophet Muhammad's preferred wife was a 9-year-old girl, if you break it down. So that's kind of weird to me. I mean, that sounds like the rise of the Antichrist. Call it what you want, but I read the other books, A lot of people didn't read them, so I'm not, I just said I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I know that these things hold truth, but I'm not saying a man-written book is the word of God, That's all I'm saying. And, yeah, with that all said and shown, I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming on here with us, Jason. I know that you've got a lot going on, and to spend time out of your day, it's much appreciated. So thanks for everything.
Yep. You too, brother.
Right on. And folks, I'd like to recommend you check out leakproject.com. We are updating that site every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 shows. We have exclusive content on there that isn't available anywhere else. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord, and be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Jason Jeffries with us again. We are going to be showing you the latest photographs and video footage we have on Planet X, Nibiru, the Winged Destroyer, Nemesis, whatever name you want to put to it. This is some really good footage. It just gets better and better. I don't know if people are really doing more searching now for Planet X versus 6 months ago or a year ago, but it just seems like every time I put up a new podcast, the images that I get are amazing. Like right now, the first image that we're looking at, this was sent to us from Chris, and as you can see, there's definitely an orb to the top left of the sun right there. And some people might say, well, that's just a lens flare, that's an anomaly. Okay, could be, but take a look at this, you guys. Look at this. You've got 2 objects of lens flare. You've got 2 sets of lens flare there. You've got the sun right here, and to the top left, you've got this orb, and the reflection of it's down there. So, Jason, thanks for joining us here at the Leak Project. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, doing fantastic. A lot's going on right now. We're going to be able to put full-time effort into Leak Project now. I do not have a day job to worry about, so this is wonderful. We're going to do a tour this month or next across the entire country, and we're going to get some stellar footage. We're going to talk to people all over the place. So, now, last time we spoke, Jason, you gave us some really good footage, orbital paths and stuff that seemed to kind of freeze up at the worst time. So on the second half of this podcast, what I'd like to do is those updates on those orbital paths and make sure that they're as smooth as silk. But what do you think of this picture right here, man?
I think that's really good footage. From what I've been seeing, as of this month, it's been coming out from behind the sun, and it's really revealing itself, especially in the higher elevations. So a lot of people have been getting objects, and like we know there's probably 4 or 5 objects that comes with this system. So yeah, that's definitely one of them. I'd say that's the sun, the actual binary of the system. There's a lot of names for that, but yeah, that's giving off its own light. They can see it clear as day there, obviously, because
Yeah, I mean, this one's great. She's got her hand in the middle of the sun and that object, so you can see that it's not some type of lens refraction.
Yeah, and it's actually got two. The reflections there are blue, and you can see 2 of them. One's got the classic pink around it from the sun, and the other one's smaller and blue, and in correlation to where you know, the second sun is. So, yep, hard to debunk that one.
I got to tell you, thanks a lot, Chris. I really appreciate this footage. This is stellar. Some of the best images I've seen yet. And then I go down to this next image here. This is from Christina Holland, and she used a welder's lens or some type of filtering system here, so you could see that you've got these 2 objects again, and then 2 sets of lens flare to go with it.
Yeah, and that's what people say, oh, it's a lens flare, it's because you got multiple layers of glass there. Well, what these people are doing all the time is rotating the camera and the glass and everything. They're showing you that that object does not move. So it's not, it couldn't be that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're putting on a welding helmet, and they're looking up at the sun. They see it there, and then they just put the camera there, and it's seeing the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's some video footage I'm going to show here in a moment, actually, from the same lady. She does that. She's got the welder's lens. She puts the camera, angles it so it actually goes through there, and you can see the lens flares bouncing around, but you can see the stationary objects stay in the same location. So it's pretty cool. We'll get to that in just a minute. Now, this one's from Kathleen, and you can see this shot was taken last month. She said she used a gamer-type cameras. I don't know if it's a Bushnell, I guess that's what it says down here. So this is very interesting. I don't know really what to make all this reddish anomaly blobbish stuff around it, but you can definitely see there's this second sun source right here, this orb, I should say, second light source and orb.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one?
I'd say that's probably the object that was, if that was last month, like I said, it was supposed to be passing kind of across the sun, if you will, from our perception as we rotate around it. And yeah, it would make sense that it's on the left of the sun now and on the right of the sun at that time. So even the red, like last night, I seen the craziest sunset. I mean, I've seen in a long time, and I've noticed that even to the west and to the east, both sides are red for some reason. I mean, I know red light bends easier, and that's why you see it. But last night, I literally seen, after the sun went down, it looked like just a streak of red that went like almost like a rainbow, around the sky, and they were chemtrailing the whole time, even at night. And then when you looked up at the moon, it looked like the moon had a bulge on it, like there was this blue orb like appearing out from behind it, man. And I watched it for like a half hour. I was blinking, clear my eyes, like, I was like, what the heck, man? And it was just some of the craziest stuff I've seen, like real life, you know what I mean? Like, we're seeing a lot of these red sunsets. So I believe that holds true with the red oxide, or maybe the bending of light, or brown dwarf, or, because whatever it is, it's basically, like I said, red light's the beginning of the spectrum. It's easier to bend and it'll curve, and that's why the moon's red during solar eclipses and the sky's red at night, because it's not direct sunlight. It's the only one that can bend that far for us to still see it, So,
right,
I mean, it's making sense to me.
Well, and we've had Eric Gibson post a lot of comments in the comment section. I've even seen you guys talk back and forth, and he's a really good photographer, and he's also honorable skeptic, I would like to say, as far as the Planet X goes. He hasn't seen it with his own eyes, so he's skeptical about it, and I can totally appreciate that. And he sent some images recently to me. He said, Rex, you got to get these images out there.